Hello, dear friends. If life has taught me anything, it's not to have debts, or at least only the necessary ones. Opinion piece. World debt at historic record high. The ball gets bigger every day. Nearly $300 trillion in global debt. US raises its debt limit. Microsoft enters financial technology. The richest flee Treasuries. Energy is collapsing in Asia and Europe. Gas prices fall in Europe thanks to Russia. England doesn't bail out its energy companies. Shipping lines curb container prices. La Palma airport closed due to ashes. Gold-based cryptocurrencies provide stability. New increase in world food prices. ECB already thinking about how to shield Spain and Italy. Chinese real estate giants are trapped. China threatens Taiwan with a third world war. First pig-human hybrid created on US farms. India develops sunlight reactor to produce hydrogen. Genetic mechanism discovered that could solve baldness. Let's start. Global debt nears $300 trillion. Global debt has grown by $4.8 trillion during the second quarter of 2021. It thus beats an all-time record of $296 trillion at the end of June, according to data from the Institute of International Finance. If borrowing continues at this pace, global debt is expected to exceed $300 trillion. Governments that invested trillions in monetary and fiscal stimulus support to stay afloat during the crisis are now more indebted than at any time in modern history, even surpassing World War II. Globally, citizens' household debt has increased by $1.5 trillion in the first 6 months of 2021, standing at $55 trillion, while total sustainable debt in issuance has exceeded $800 billion so far this year. Definition. Debt is an obligation that a natural or legal person has to meet its payment commitments resulting from the exercise of its economic activity. A debt is an obligation that someone has to pay, satisfy or repay to another person something, usually money. A public debt is the debt that the state or other public administration has recognized by means of interest-bearing and sometimes amortizing securities. A floating debt is a public debt that is not consolidated and which, as it is composed of fixed-term maturities and other documents not yet definitively settled, may increase or decrease every day. The issuance of debt has as its main purpose the search for financing. The problem comes when the cost of financing becomes more expensive because investors consider that the purchase of the same has more risk because of the future probabilities of solvency or repayment, demanding more profitability for the holding of the same through a risk premium. Relief in the US. Suspended the debt ceiling until December. The US Senate approved on Thursday to suspend the debt ceiling until December in order to prevent the country from defaulting on its national debt as of October 18th. The Democrats approved only with their votes 50 to 48 the suspension of the debt ceiling after the Republican opposition refused to collaborate with the executive, putting at risk the stability of the financial markets. The Senate approved a $480 billion increase in the Treasury Department's borrowing authority. Markets. Wall Street ends with solid gains. The New York Stock Exchange ended sharply higher Thursday in a broad-based rally led by big tech as the trust in the debt ceiling showdown in Congress eased concerns of a possible default this month. Stock rise, prices fall. Global stock markets rallied Thursday after Senate leaders took steps to avert a default on federal debt, while a global easing in energy prices eased fears of stagflation. European stock markets rebounded from 2.5-month lows, and Wall Street jumped as steady crude oil and natural gas prices offered relief after a 4% drop in German industrial production highlighted supply chain disruptions. The Dow Jones Industrial Average rose 500 points on Thursday. The labor market regains balance. The number of Americans filing new claims for unemployment benefits declined last week, suggesting a recovery in the labor market after a recent slowdown. Inflation. Stephen Mnuchin warns of inflation risk. The former Treasury Secretary warned of the risk of breaking the debt ceiling, excessive government spending, and concerns that it could further fuel inflation. Richest flee Treasuries. The super rich hold fewer government and municipal securities than they have for nearly 2 decades, according to recent data from the Federal Reserve. Treasury seeks more oversight. The Biden administration wants the Internal Revenue Service to more closely monitor citizens' bank accounts. An administration proposal calls for banks to report aggregate inflows and outflows above $600. Wild fruit prices rise again in September. Wild food prices rose again in September due to supply constraints and strong demand for commodities such as wheat and palm oil, FAO announced Thursday. FAO. Shipping lines are putting the brakes on skyrocketing container prices. Importers and retailers have expressed anger over what they saw as price hikes by shipping lines that made record profits. Shipping container prices could stabilize after a year of worsening service, regulatory threats, and retailer complaints as prices skyrocketed. Microsoft enters financial technology. Microsoft Corporation will launch its Microsoft Cloud for financial services on November 1st. The company said the move will help accelerate innovation for its sustainable growth. Virgin Money UK was announced as one of the first partnered institutions in the new launch. Cryptocurrencies. The Bank of Spain highlights that Bitcoin wouldn't help financial inclusion in El Salvador. The Bank of Spain points out that the application of the Bitcoin law in El Salvador would have been accelerated and improvised, and that it would bring disadvantages to the country when requesting external financing to pay its debt maturities. Bitcoin's October price surge suggests a near-term bull run for cryptocurrencies amid regulation. Bitcoin and other cryptocurrencies are rising on the charts this week, continuing their pattern of a stock market breakout over the past month. Gold-based cryptocurrencies give a sense of stability. Today's new cryptocurrency investors is not the risk taker of a few years ago. They have seen the mistakes of the last 12 years in a volatile investment market and are becoming much more cautious. They have seen people close to them erratically dump money into crypto because a friend or family member thought it was a good idea. For many it wasn't, but a few got rich. Cryptocurrency has always been riskier than trading stocks, but not as risky as trading penny stock or options. New, more risk-averse investors are now looking for cryptocurrency investment opportunities with solid backing. Since the infancy of the cryptocurrency trading market, developers have had an interest in creating a digital currency backed by gold. Having such a digital currency means linking a token or a coin to a specific amount of gold. The gold is then held in reserve, usually by a third party. The significant advantage of having a digital currency linked to gold is that the minimum of reference value of the token will always be equal to the fixed amount of gold. Gold-backed digital currencies offer protection against a significant drop in value. Complaints. Key FBI witness against Julian Assange, alleged hacker and convicted pedophile, jailed in Iceland. Thordarson admitted in a recent interview that all his statements against the WikiLeaks founder were lies. Sigurður Ingi Thordarson, the key witness and first known FBI informant in the case against Julian Assange, has been jailed in Iceland. He has been remanded in custody in the highest security prison on the island, Litla Hraun, since September 24th. US charges former Taliban commander with killing US troops in 2008. A former Taliban commander, already in judicial custody, has been charged with murder and terrorism-related crimes in the deaths of 3 US soldiers and an Afghan interpreter at the shooting down of a helicopter in Afghanistan in 2008, federal prosecutors said Thursday in New York. Texas authorities denounced that members of a Mexican cartel armed with AK-47s are taunting U.S. border guards. In addition to high-powered weapons, the alleged narcos were wearing military tactical vests, authorities say. Authorities in Texas have reported that suspected members of a Mexican cartel involved in human smuggling have taunted the National Guard and Border Patrol at the border with Mexico by showing off AK-47s they were carrying. Spain. Volcanic ash buildup closes La Palma airport. A buildup of ash and dust from the erupting Cumbre Vieja volcano on the runway forced La Palma authorities to close the island's airport on Thursday. Wind carries toxic gases inland to La Palma as seismicity intensifies. Changes in wind direction and strength have worsened air quality, and it is already noticeable on the street. Throughout Thursday, more than 60 seismic movements have been registered, the most outstanding an earthquake of magnitude 4.3, the most intense since the beginning of the volcanic activity. The ECB is already thinking about how to shield Spain and Italy with a new stimulus plan. The ECB is considering a new bond buying program to avoid market turbulence when emergency purchases are phased out next year. Spain and Italy are in the spotlight because of their high indebtedness. Morocco thwarts massive attempt to enter Ceuta. Hundreds of migrants detained in their attempt to enter Spain. It happened on Wednesday night in the enclave of Ceuta on the North African coast. A large group of men swarmed on the Moroccan side of the border and threw stones at the police. Moroccan agents shut them down and prevented them from scaling the high fence separating Morocco from Spanish soil. Europe. Police harassment of migrants in Calais. The Observatory for Human Rights denounces the harassment to which France subjects migrants in Calais. Settled in precarious camps in the northern French port city, the migrants aspire to enter the UK from there. French police subject them to harassment and humiliation to dissuade them from staying in the area, the NGO has denounced. Shortages in the UK. Labour shortages are wreaking havoc in the UK's energy, agriculture, medical, transport and food sectors. On the south coast of England, there is a field of unharvested broccoli. Several similar fields have already rotted. Labour shortages have led many farmers to cut back their crops for next year. British government rules out bailing out failed energy companies. The British government has rolled out coming to the rescue of gas and electricity distribution companies in this upswing in gas prices, which has already claimed them corporate casualties since August. Natural gas prices fall as Putin says Russia will increase supplies to Europe. The price of gas futures in Europe has plunged almost 22% below the $1,000 per thousand cubic meters on the news that Russia is willing to increase supplies to the continent. Prices almost reached $2,000 the previous day. Russia's Nord Stream 2 pipeline could play a crucial role in stabilizing the European gas market. International Gas Union President Dr. Joe M. Kang said Russia could provide absolute security to the European market in terms of energy and warmth. He highlighted the Nord Stream 2 pipeline and said it could play a crucial role in stabilizing the European gas market by delivering additional gas needed by the continent. Russia would be ready to deal with a possible US invasion with drones. Moscow military scientists say. Specialists at one of Russia's leading military training academies have revealed how the country would defend itself against an ambitious invasion by US forces along one of its vast coastlines by deploying large fleets of attack aircraft using combined fighter and drone strikes to take out enemy ships. Religion. French Interior Minister summons top Catholic bishop for saying sex crime confessed in church would remain secret. France's top bishop was summoned by the Interior Minister for claiming that sexual abuse disclosed to priests during confession would remain secret. Days earlier, a shocking French report revealed decades of abuse by clergy. Opus Dei responds to denunciation of slavery of 43 South American women. In Argentina, Paraguay, and Bolivia, it seems that far from being a fiction, the tale of the maid was the reality of 43 women who were enslaved by Opus Dei. These are poor women who denounced having been recruited under false pretenses by the Catholic organization to be servants for life, without pay and with no incentive to raise their own families. These women worked for other lay members. They lived separated by gender in the institution's facilities and had to give up everything. Carlos Mujica, the priest of the poor, whose legacy lives in the heart of Argentinian Villa. October 7th is the National Day of the Villero identity in Argentina, in honor of the birth of Carlos Mujica, a priest linked to the movement of priests for the Third World and the popular struggle of the 60s and 70s. He founded the Cristo Obrero parish in Villa 31 in Buenos Aires and was assassinated by vigilant repression in 1974. South America. Maradona and his entourage accused of human trafficking. The Cuban Mavis Alvarez Rego took part in a complaint for human trafficking against the immigration authorities of Argentina and Cuba, as well as the entourage of the soccer star, the late Diego Armando Maradona. The second-hand market grows along with the economic crisis in Argentina. Manteros and second-hand merchandise stalls surround the bus and train terminals of Retiro in the city of Buenos Aires. The need for sustenance among neighbors of the nearby Villa 31 caused the fair to double its offer and the barter and exchange of products, many of them recovered by urban collectors or donations. The Bolivian president affirms that the economy is recovering thanks to a sovereign policy. President Luis Arce highlighted Bolivia's economic reactivation as the result of a sovereign policy that does not follow the IMF's neoliberal alignments. Brazilian police discover $3.5 million treasure trove of Nazi memorabilia. Nazi uniforms and flags, photos of Adolf Hitler and German World War II medals were among a massive collection of Third Reich items found in the home of a Rio de Janeiro man whom police went so far as to arrest on suspicion of raping a minor. China. Chinese real estate giants have considerable debt. Investment bank JP Morgan has estimated that troubled Chinese real estate giant Evergrande and many of its major rivals have billions of dollars in off-balance sheet debt that, once aggregated, increases their leverage ratio. China says World War III could break out at any time over Taiwan dispute. China wants that World War III could break out at any time after it sent dozens of fighter jets into Taiwanese airspace. An article published Tuesday in the state-backed Global Times newspaper said the collision between the US and Taiwan was so audacious that the situation has almost lost room for maneuver, on the brink of a confrontation. He asserted that the people of China were ready to back down from an all-out war with the US, warning the island nation not to play with fire. In recent days, nearly 150 fighter jets, including fighters, nuclear-capable bombers, anti-submarine and electronic warfare aircraft, have repeatedly violated Taiwan's airspace, including 56 planes in a single incident, in what has become a dramatic escalation of aggression. Asia. Earthquake shakes Tokyo, causes power outages. A strong earthquake with a preliminary magnitude of 6.1 shook Tokyo and surrounding areas late Thursday, halting train lines and causing sporadic power outages, but there were no reports of major damage. United Nations predicts impending humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. Since the Taliban seized power, Afghanistan's economy has been in free fall. The head of the UN's Global Food Programme, Mary-Ellen McGrady, reports widespread humanitarian hardship, shortages, asset freezes, and suspension of development projects. The economy is on the verge of collapse here in Afghanistan. In quotes, there is a cash liquidity crisis. The bank had closed their doors, but now that they are open, you can only withdraw $200 a week. Savings are untouchable for those who have a little money in the bank. According to United Nations data, almost half of the population, more than 80 million people, need help to survive. Energy crisis. Power and electricity grids are collapsing in Asia and Europe. In China, 21 of 30 provinces are experiencing rolling blackouts as power generation crumbles due to coal shortages. According to the South China Morning Post, some factories are currently running only one day a week. Coal production cannot keep pace with global demand, which continues to rise. Meanwhile, natural gas shortages and rising prices in Europe have fertilizer producers reeling. Many have shut down, and just 2 days ago, Germany's largest ammonia plant cut production and warns it may have to shut down all manufacturing. The result is that skyrocketing energy prices and disruptions could drive millions of people in Europe and China into poverty, as manufacturing would be affected. The coming winter would not be easy to handle without affordable heating either. Natural gas shortages and rising prices are also affecting greenhouse food production across Europe. This, in addition to fertilizer plant closures, means that Europe would face food shortages after the 2022 harvest. This would extend into the fall of 2022 and could continue long after that if not remedied. A Putin joke about gas in 2010 proved prescient. In quotes, "They don't want gas, they don't develop nuclear power. Are they going to hit themselves with firewood?" The leader joked during an economic forum in Berlin with words that have now, as the whole of Europe faces a gas shortage, taking on unexpected relevance. Technology. Greener lithium. Automakers, investors, and even oil giant Schlumberger are beginning to adopt environmentally friendly technologies to produce lithium that could help meet 25% of more of the world's demand for electric vehicles. US loosens China's grip on lithium-ion batteries. The US is closing the gap on China's dominance in the $46 billion lithium-ion battery industry thanks to Tesla's investments and the administration's push to encourage the growth of electric vehicles. Indian scientists developed a reactor for cost-effective production of hydrogen using sunlight and water. A team of scientists has, for the first time, developed a reactor that produces a cost-effective amount of hydrogen using sustainable sources such as sunlight and water. This is something that should make electric vehicles with their expensive batteries obsolete. In theory, cars should be able to use solar panels on their roofs or home solar panels to generate enough hydrogen to drive anywhere at no cost. First, pig-human hybrid in the US. Human-pig hybrids are being born on farms in the US. 4 months ago, the Senate refused to pass a bill banning the current practice of thousands of different types of human-animal hybrids. An implant attacks the brain when it detects neural activity associated with thoughts. US researchers have successfully alleviated a patient's severe and prolonged depression with an electronic implant that acts as a neural pacemaker, resetting brain circuits associated with negative feelings. Scientists discover genetic mechanism that could stop and prevent baldness. A team of researchers at the Northwestern University, USA, has discovered the genetic mechanism that causes us to lose hair as we age. This finding opens up new possibilities for halting and reversing the process. And that's all for today. Thanks a lot, dear friends.